Welcome back again. I'm gonna see if I can finish off this section tonight, though I'm not sure. I don't remember exactly how long this part is, so might only get partway through it. We'll see. It isn't long before Artie realizes that the lights along the interstate are actually a lot farther away than he had thought. He has no idea how long he's been walking, but it feels like at least an hour, and the road is maybe just a little closer. At this point, he's so weak, his movements so uncoordinated, that deep down, he knows his body is about to give up. Every dizzy spell, every wave of anxiety, it terrifies the cat that he might have another seizure. And if he does, he knows he won't be getting back up. Artie, please. Cam? Artie looks around hopefully. He'd probably start crying right now if Cameron just showed up, if only because he wouldn't be alone anymore. But then Artie sees a pair of headlights closer than the others. And it gets closer and closer. Artie notes that the lights are coming right toward him, and he doesn't bother getting out of the road, feeling like this must be a light at the end of the tunnel situation. Then the lights slow and Artie hears the sound of an engine. Let me see if I can remember how I did his voice and hopefully not destroy my throat this time. What the fuck are you doing standing there like a fucking idiot on the fucking road? Artie's ears twitch, recognizing the voice from somewhere in his past, in what might as well be another life. It's hard to tell because they're screaming at him. A car door opens and Artie just stands there, lost in the light. I told you guys to fuck off. First the fucking bar is closed because of some fucking cold, and now you're still here to fuck with me? I just want a cunt and drink to cunt and relax. Arturo furrows his brows, never having heard that particular word used in such a way. A figure starts to materialize in front of Arturo, and finally he recognizes him. What happened to you? The weasel stares at him, then tilts his head to the side, squinting before reaching out and turning Arturo slightly by the shoulder. Shit, there's no way. He couldn't be that fucking... The weasel trails off, then looks at Artie's face. Who did this? Artie reluctantly opens his mouth, for some reason feeling almost embarrassed about his condition. Bar. The weasel stares at him with an odd look. Bar? Yeah, it was at the bar. It's closed. Bear. Bear? Brian? Arturo nods and regrets it immediately as he almost falls over. Damn, you're really fucked up, aren't you? Arturo stares back at the weasel and notices his expression, like he's trying to decide something. It's not the right reaction to the situation, and Artie suddenly feels like he might be in danger, but he has no idea why. All he remembers is that this old man had floored Devin with 2 swings, so combined with his current state, he can't do a thing. Then the weasel seems to come out of whatever it was he was thinking about. Well, I'll be damned. This is it then, isn't it? Stupid motherfucker. Alright, get in. We're going to the hospital. Arturo stumbles forward, and once the weasel realizes he's having trouble moving at all, he helps Arturo inside. As he does, the weasel sucks in a breath, grimacing. Jesus Christ, this really is making me not want to do what I'm gonna do after this. But you know, everything's gotta end eventually. Arturo isn't sure what the old weasel is talking about, but if he's taking him to the hospital, then he's at least on the right track. Free and Friends. Yeah, I'll call Peyton PD once I drop you off. I gotta make sure I can beat him back, though. Arturo decides that it's the weasel who's acting strange, but as the strange weasel starts to make a 3-point turn to drive back toward the interstate, Arturo is only grateful. He's done what he can, and now the rest is up to God. He can only pray. So he prays for Devin, Cameron, Maria, and himself. Because if he survives, he knows the road in front of him is long, fractured, and broken. Devin feels his body bouncing and shaking on a hard, metallic surface, occasionally leaning from side to side, feeling like he's lying down in a car taking sharp turns. The bear opens his eyes, groaning. Dev? Cam? Is Cameron driving? The Coyote has his own sedan that he drives, but usually if they're out together, it's in Devin's Jeep. At first he thinks maybe he's given the wheel to the Coyote so that he himself can get some rest, but they came in the Jeep, and Cameron can't drive standard, right? Come on, stop assuming things. Lately, Cameron seems to bristle whenever he does. Lately as in ever since they got to Echo. Devin? I'm here. How are you doing? Cameron's concerned, gentle voice is clearly masking something strained and desperate underneath. Cameron? What's it? What's wrong? I told you he's all drugged up. But he can barely talk. Cam? Exactly, I already told you I roofied him. It's like blacking out. Anyway, it's wearing off. He's just tired. Is that blood? Why is he bleeding? Did it to himself. Imagine what a mess we'd been if he wasn't drugged, right? Never trust a bear to stay put when you chain him up. Devin, can you hear me? Are you okay? Yes. Then he's drifting back to sleep again. More sounds of driving on a rough road, gravel grinding under wheels and hitting the undercarriage. When he comes to again, it's stopped and Devin realizes the van doors are open. Looks like it did wear off just in time. Can I go to him? Please? Devin sees that one of Cameron's ears is twisted in the older bear's grasp. The coyote's head tilted to the side, wincing as he tries to get a better look at Devin. The younger bear becomes very still, seeing his best friend being held by the worst person he's ever met. One of his soft, sensitive ears that Devin had played with countless times in the past is now twisted tightly in on itself. In Brian's other paw, he holds a shotgun. On top of it all, Brian looks angrier than usual. In fact, he's looking at Cameron with an expression of utter contempt, all while Cameron isn't paying attention to him, looking intently at Devin instead. Of course, fucking typical. I'm glad I saved this. He suddenly grabs the coyote by the shoulder and turns Cameron around to face him, to face away from Devin. Even so, there's no confusion as to what happens to Cameron next. Brian turns slightly away from Cameron, then spins and sends the back of his fist across the coyote's muzzle. The sound is so loud, Devin is shocked awake, adrenaline compensating for the sedative. At first, Devin refuses to believe what he just saw, that a sound like that could have been made with Cameron's muzzle. The coyote's head snaps to the right before he instantly starts to crumple, but Brian holds him up. Hey! Devin yells automatically, shocked by what he just saw. He'd never seen someone hit that hard in his entire life. The silence that follows the distinct sound of something small clatters around the van, as if a plastic bead had been thrown against the metal walls. Devin hears it land next to him, and looking down, he sees something long, spinning in place before finally coming to a stop. It's thin, white, and it starts wide but tapers to a sharp point. Devin only has a moment to focus on it before he grunts as Cameron lands on top of him, Brian having pushed him over. As he's looking down at the coyote and sees the blood beginning to seep from his mouth, Devin realizes the white thing is one of Cameron's teeth, and shocked anger overcomes the fear. Hey! All sense has seemingly left Devin, everything he's feeling and thinking condensing down to that one word that he screams to express his rage. Cam! Cam! Panic is making him breathe fast, though he tries to keep his chest from heaving to avoid bouncing Cameron's head. Brian hit him so hard that it definitely could have killed him. What makes it all the more terrifying is the way that Cameron's body went limp. It had been so reminiscent of Artie's sudden collapse when he had suddenly lost his life. But Cameron is breathing. It's in a terrible, snorting way. Cammy, baby, can you hear me? The panic in his voice lowers to an almost pitiful whine as he stares at the coyote, twitching. His eyes half open and his head turning back and forth slowly. Whoops! Took out a bit more on him than I meant to. Fuck, that hurt. Brian shakes the paw he'd used to hit Cameron as if bashing the Cameron's muzzle made it sting. Devin's rage crescendos once more. Brian! I will fucking kill you! Brian looks surprised for just a second, then he goes on grinning, enjoying the reaction, as if he's watching a show. It only makes Devin angrier. I'll knock every tooth out of your fucking head! I'll cut your throat out! I'll... Devin's voice weakens, breaks, then trails off under Brian's apparent glee at the younger bear's fury. Realizing that Cameron's ears are twitching at his shouting, Devin returns his attention to Cameron as the coyote lets out a low, rasping groan. Cameron? Honey? Can you hear me? You can hear me, right? Cameron? Meanwhile, blood oozes out of the coyote's nose and mouth, seeping into the fur on Devin's stomach and side. Devin tries to keep his sobbing and gasping to a minimum as Cameron's head continues to rest over his diaphragm. Cameron's eyes flutter, then he blinks, and Devin sees the light of consciousness re-enter his eyes. Cam! Devin? Cameron grunts under his breath, lifting his head slightly. Brian already looks bored at the catastrophe he just created, and now he keeps looking over his shoulder into the darkness that stretches behind him, shifting impatiently. Alright, make it quick, yo. We need to keep moving. Don't you touch him. You could have broken his fucking neck. Devin's voice cracks and turns hoarse again. Brian bristles, finally reacting, but Devin turns his attention back to Cameron, continuing to try and gently coax him into a state of consciousness. Come on, baby. Can you hear me? Can you understand what I'm saying? Slowly, Cameron lifts his head, a mixture of blood and saliva connecting his lip to Devin's fur in a long strand. I'm okay. I'm fine. Cameron sounds confused as he mumbles, trying to get up unsteadily. No, stay still. No, get up! Didn't I tell you what I'd do to you, your bear, if you don't? Then do it! Come over here, do it, you fucking coward! You fucking scum! Devin. Cameron's voice is calm, albeit quiet and weak, and the bear goes silent as he focuses back on the coyote. He has his head lifted, trying to focus on Devin's face. Who's feeling this right now? The question catches the bear by surprise. What? The mines. That's right. I'm going to the mines, and I'm coming back for you. Cameron clasps a paw to his muzzle, wincing hard as he shuts his eyes tight. What? What mines? Stay here! Devin's eyes well up with tears, seeing that the coyote is barely coherent, barely able to understand what's happening. Then Cameron leans in to kiss the bear, again taking Devin by surprise. Kevin. He immediately smells and tastes Cameron's blood, making the gorge rise in his throat. It reminds him of his predation nightmares, but Cameron insists, so Devin just concentrates on not heaving. He doesn't want to feel the gap where Cameron's lower left canine used to be, the unevenness of his already swelling muzzle. As he forces himself to kiss back, he feels something else press against his lips. Something hard and oddly shaped, and Devin opens his muzzle, allowing the blood to flow into his mouth, but with it comes something else. And Devin realizes all at once that it's the key. Devin maneuvers the key into his muzzle as subtly as he can, hearing Brian sigh impatiently behind Cameron. It slides under his tongue easily, small in his comparatively large muzzle. Cameron whispers into Devin's ear. "We're gonna go back home together. I promise." "But where are you going? Why the mines? Honey, please." Devin can't keep the whining panic out of his voice, sounding like a cub, but managing to keep the words clear with the tiny key under his tongue. Devin just stares at Cameron as he pulls back, tears rolling down his cheeks as his coyote crawls weakly to his feet and steadies himself against the wall of the van. You're fine." He turns his gaze back to the furious, sobbing bear. "Sit tight, kid. We'll be back in a little while. Promise." Being knocked out, regaining consciousness, stumbling his way through the dark, all on an untold amount of shrooms is harrowing. That's the only word Cameron feels is appropriate for this situation. Harrowing. The world is more dreamlike than his dreams. This combination of disorienting factors leaves Cameron fumbling through a series of events immediately after he'd reached the old bear. Brian grabbed his paw, and suddenly they were moving swiftly through the desert before Cameron is pulled into a place that's cold and dark, lit up dimly by an old electric lantern, its handle hanging from the barrel of Brian's shotgun. If Cameron thought his perception of time was fucked on weed, now it's twisted over on itself. He's exhausted, having not eaten a proper meal in well over a day. His throat is so dry he thinks he might be willing to drink Brian's drugged water. Each time Brian goes around a bend first, or his bulk obscures it, the lantern's light disappears and leaves Cameron in darkness. Each time that happens, brilliant red arcs crowd his vision. Who's in darkness? I am. I'm in the darkness. Everything is in darkness. No, just me. Stop fighting it. It'll only make it worse. Cameron is surprised by the bear's sudden appearance. Where am I? Brian sighs heavily again. Doesn't matter. But... Cameron crumples up as something jabs him hard in the sternum, twisting in on himself, feeling a black hole open in his chest. It sucks the rest of his body and attention into it as the canine curls up on the hard dirt floor, whining and grunting. Finally, air returns to his lungs, and as it does, he hears a snorting sound again. After a while, Cameron looks up from his position on the ground to see Brian on his knees, appearing to smell the stock of his shotgun. Then Cameron notices the white powder and he understands what's happening. Cameron hears a familiar voice, one that he's sure he's hearing and not imagining. Don't snort it. You're trying to coat your nasal cavity, not your fucking lungs. That's how my friends did it. And your friends are fucking idiots. Brian looks up from his disappearing line of bath salts. Who are you talking to? Cameron quickly tries to hush Dylan, but Brian already heard them. On top of that, Brian doesn't seem angry or upset, but his continued stare demands an answer. His name's Dylan. He's my ex. Sorry, we don't get along well. You getting some third man syndrome? Whenever I get real fucked up on too many drugs for too long, a person always shows up. I'm having a conversation with him and everything. Brian readjusts the way he's holding his lantern and gun and grabs Cameron's arm with the other. I hear it happens to people in survival situations, too. Anyway, I'm always too delirious to remember who the third man is. Yeah. Cameron can't understand how Dylan isn't real, but this nightmare bear apparently is. Isn't he being tricked? Alright, here's the deal. I'll stop hitting you as long as you're smiling. Got it? Huh? Brian clenches his fists meaningfully. Cameron winces, then quickly stretches his mouth into a large smile, even though it hurts to the point that tears well up in his eyes. Oh, sorry, I didn't realize you were talking about what you were talking about for a second. I remember now. Sure you do, pathetic faggot. Brian continues to inspect Cameron as the coyote remains quiet, keeping a smile plastered on his face. This experience is too much. All of this is too much. He just wants it to stop, and he'll do whatever this bear, this source of his torment, wants, if it prevents him from being hurt again. Guess I did bust your chops pretty good, huh? Cameron flinches as the bear grabs his badly aching muzzle in one giant paw. Wait, please don't. Ah! Cameron cringes hard, but tries his best to hold still. Yep, broke your tooth, too. Swollen up a bit, but you're cuter with your face all messed up like that. Too bad it's gonna look real ugly by tomorrow morning. Not that it'll matter. It's just hard to look at you now with that stupid scar. Brian lets go and grabs his shoulder instead, at the same time glancing at Cameron's shirt. You from Bridgetown? Timber City? You just picked that up at the Goodwill. I always say, when you're shopping at the Goodwill, never pick up clothes that have anything to do with the place. Fuck, just a few years back, I took a Weston sweatshirt from the Salvation Army and... Cameron follows along silently. Meanwhile, that third person has shifted into something else, something a bit more familiar. Brian's getting chatty again from the second dose he took. Anyway, I hear that city's overrun with Antifa and all that. True liberal hellscape if there ever was one. His mother, following behind them, is holding his paw. Looking back, he can't see her clearly, but he knows it's her. It's okay. A lot of the time it's outside groups coming into the city, making trouble. Even sounds like her, defending the city they both grew up in despite its problems, despite its streets becoming a stage for the country's culture wars to physically play out. Even while they suffered on the outskirts of what was supposed to be a liberal bastion lit up by the lights of tolerance and welfare, but instead glowing orange from burning cars and flashbangs. And yet, they defended it, because they both believed in its core principles. Now, though... Cameron looks behind himself, while also looking back. He's taller than she is, and he's reminded of just how small she was. How small she'd seem to him now if she'd survived. He would have saved her too, if she could have held on just a little longer. But how much longer? 4, 5 years? Should she have held on that long? No, not with her habit and the amount she was using. And though Cameron doesn't want to admit it, it was her death that spurred him to make the first serious change in his life. His mom wasn't a good mom. All things considered, she shouldn't have ever had children. But how can he judge? She was still a teenager, excited and in love, living out of a '70s Chevy van, but all of that came to an end when he was born in December 1995. The next year, his abusive, probably schizophrenic father left and committed suicide somewhere in the mid 2000s. But for a few months in 1995, his parents truly wanted to make a good life for him. And that feeling of love from that moment in time overwhelms Cameron. They wanted him to be happy, successful, and they truly thought he'd be the one to break the family cycle of dropping out and being broke. And even though they wanted that for him, they especially wanted him to be happy, to have a family life and a childhood that both his parents were only able to see other kids enjoy. They tried. But it's the most typical love story for people like them. Because eventually, like in all those other stories, things break and then things settle. He'd done the exact same before Devon. She should have taken more precautions. She left him alone in the trailer often, her medications and recreational drugs freely available for him to experiment with while she was at work. He became an addict just like her, and he had come to understand the baggage that comes with that label, that it's not just about a craving or a desire for something. Everyone has those feelings. No, it's about who you are as a person, a liar, a thief, a cheater. Someone willing to do anything to get whatever it is their addiction demands. Anything to feel good. Whether it's pathetically checking all the coin dispensers in a casino once you've spent your life savings, or pathetically combing through the carpet for whatever drug it is you're starting to come down from. The only thing that had saved him from that life and death, with his mother's insistence to keep his grades up. Of course, Devon saved him too, but he would never have met the bear without good grades and a decent ACT score. And despite her losing touch with life in his senior year, that habit of academic discipline she'd drilled into him stuck. That's what got him a partial scholarship to the University of Pueblo. And that's what got him out of the trailer parks surrounding Bridgetown and into this state's flagship university. A few schools in his own state had better offers, but Pueblo was the most prestigious of the schools he got accepted into. The top 100 school with the best ranked nursing and engineering programs in the region. That, and at the time, Cameron wanted to be far away from Bridgetown, even if that meant the desert. And then he met Devon. She wasn't a good mom, but she was a great person, a wonderful person, and she did the best she could with what she had at the time. She'd brought him into a chaotic, unstable life, a life that she saved multiple times, and while he occasionally wished his mother would have just let him die, now Cameron is only thankful. While most of his life was tough, the past 5 years have been better than he would have ever dared to dream was possible. His life was perfect up until yesterday, when they got here. Tears run down his face, conflicted about how he should feel, but just knowing that he misses her, that he loves her, that he hopes she's okay, wherever she is. This third person squeezes his paw reassuringly. Cameron squeezes back, and he's comforted by the feeling that, for this moment, he's sealed off from Brian and the town. It's just him and his mom walking through these mines. She tells him she's proud of him for graduating high school and college, and she's happy he found Devon. Would she really be proud of him if she knew what he studied? If she was still around, I would have majored in business administration or something. What did you major in? Smile. A gentle voice from behind him, barely audible and carried on the soft breeze that grows weaker the deeper they go into these tunnels. Music theory. And what in the hell are you supposed to do with that? Teach. The automatic answer. The one he had prepared for all of his skeptical friends who were going to STEM-related fields. You a teacher? No, but that was my plan. Some plan? I mean, I didn't go into any debt, so I had financial freedom after I graduated. You know, you're pretty coherent for someone that's on that many shrooms. Most people would lose their minds. Oh, I am. I definitely am. I don't know. I have more control than I did the first time I tried it. In fact, Cameron feels like he's losing his mind right now, laughing even though it makes every part of his body ache. Xanax is like magic when you're panicking. Anyway, what is it that you do for a living? Did it all pay off? Judging by the tone in Brian's voice, he already knows the answer to that. Customer support. For Julian. Sad. Working for a country that we nuked twice. Back in the 80s, we used to beat people up for working for companies like that. Cameron is at a loss for words, but only for a moment. Oh, okay. Julian, the current market leader in smartphone manufacturing, is Taiwanese, and the coyote assumes that the bear is thinking of a certain other country in the same region. Either way, it's a strange and disturbing aside. But that's just Brian. And sometimes with Brian, it's best for Cameron to just keep his mouth shut and to also keep on smiling. So, why music? You sing? Cameron wishes the bear would stop asking him questions, making small talk like any of this is a routine part of their lives. But the coyote assumes bath salts will make anyone talkative. Kind of. What do you mean, kinda? Either you sing or you don't. Well, yeah, I mean, I sing, but I'm not very good. I mean, you fucking better if you better be if you spent 4 years learning. How about you sing and I'll decide? It's getting harder to keep up the cheerful charade as Cameron senses that cruel, malicious arousal rising up inside of Brian again. Second dose is making him do more than just talk too much. Sure. Just gotta think of one to sing. Anything you want to hear? I know a lot of 90s grunge and alternative rock. You a walking, talking stereotype, aren't you? You write your own music? I definitely tried. A subtle twitch of annoyance ripples through the air. You know, one thing that really pisses me off is when someone's acting like an overly humble little bitch. Either you do or you don't. Either you're good at it or you're not. Either you offer something different or you fucking don't. So which the fuck is it? I do. I can. Just give me a second. The corners of Cameron's muzzle turned down slightly, his composure almost crumbling. He's doing the best he can under the current circumstances, but he needs help. Devin, where are you? And Brian's attitude shifts from one extreme to the next, making Cameron feel a sort of emotional whiplash. But as long as it keeps him from getting hit, or more importantly, killed, then he's fine with that. Tentatively, Cameron starts to sing, choosing the song that got him the most attention. The one that was played in moderate rotation at Mountain West colleges, along with a few in the Northwest. A song about his ex, Dylan, about their mutual love and hate for each other, about the abuse they used to hurl at each other, physical and mental, and finally about their breakup. His voice is rough and cracked, and while some of it is because he isn't warmed up, it's mostly due to having his throat crushed. Dehydration and screaming doesn't help either. But aside from jolting each time Brian pulls him in a different direction, Cameron finds the melody and rhythm. As he does, he becomes a bit more bold, singing louder until his voice carries through the tunnels. It feels very strange with his swelling muzzle and missing tooth. Brian still says nothing, and Cameron realizes he's listening intently. While this makes the coyote nervous, he knows it's better than the bear being angry, and mainly he just needs to keep singing. Devin is in the mines with them, and he needs directions. Cameron just wishes it doesn't feel like he's leading Devin to his own demise. Alright, that's where I'm going to call it. Forgot how long that walk is, so definitely not finishing this part tonight. Alright, thanks for listening, and see you next time.